Now, joining me today, this is the pilot. I am joined by Mike Miller. And Mike, the reason I wanted to have you on this show, on this episode, the launch, is because of your experience in the industry. So I'm looking on my monitor here. I've got your LinkedIn page, and it is very impressive. So the IMO world, which is a financial services distributor company, we work at Creative One. We have a broker-dealer. We've got an RIA. We've got the insurance arms. But when I go back and look at your history, Global Atlantic, Executive Vice President, we go back through Aviva. You were EVP of Sales and Distribution. And I'm skipping over things all the way back to being General Counsel. And what I wanted to talk about today, as we launched this podcast, was from your perspective, what does it mean to be a complete advisor, and where do you see things going?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for being here, and really looking forward to what we're creating here as the Complete Advisor podcast. I can't think of a better platform to start to highlight what our clients are doing, what others are doing in the industry. Mm-hmm. So I'm really excited about what we're doing. Complete Advisor for us is a different way of thinking about the business that has evolved over 37 years, as you say, at Creative One. Mm-hmm. If you go back to early days of IMOs, we were essentially a place to go to get product. They were largely annuity or insurance businesses. That has dramatically changed over the years from let's figure out the best products to, hey, let's come up with the greatest marketing programs we can and let's promote that to our advisors.
I remember back 20-some years ago, which now sounds a long time ago, but we would call and say, hey, we've got a block of bonds that came in and we've got 5% guaranteed for 3 years, to now we have all these different arms we help with advertising. And it's the same with advisors too.
It's exactly the same with advisors. I mean, if an advisor is meeting with a client now, whether you're insurance only or whether you're a financial advisor managing their money, it's going to be important to have the ability to provide all aspects. Whether you're licensed one way or the other, you're going to have to be able to provide all aspects. And even if an advisor doesn't want to go get licensed, they don't have to go get licensed to be a insurance licensed, or if they're securities licensed, they don't have to go get a securities license, but affiliate with somebody so you have the ability to provide the entire package, or others are going to pick up that business and take it away. And I think it's really important for advisors to be thinking about the entirety of their practice. And so that's when I think, back to your original question, the complete advisor, it's somebody who has the ability to provide to a client all aspects of their financial needs. Mm-hmm. And so that's how I kind of think about it. And that's the direction we've begun to evolve our business at Creative One.
Absolutely. So with that being said, with your experience and having been in the business as long, not that you've been in business that long.
No, I've been in it a while.
Where do you see us going? Because we have regulatory changes, we have sophistication of products. Where do you see us going with this?
Yeah, listen, I think back about to my general counsel days. The regulatory issues that we faced as an industry 20 years ago, 25 years ago, were free look percentages in our business on strictly annuity products were 5-10% of business that was submitted. Mm-hmm. The regulatory environment has changed since then to where it is now. And a big part of that change, originally when it happened, I think a lot of insurance agents and advisors went, whoa, this is over-regulation. This is starting to become a problem for us to be successful in our business. We as an industry and advisors have become incredibly adept at changing their business in order to identify the opportunities that come along with those kinds of challenges or regulation.
So with your experience as legal counsel, I'm going to just throw you a curveball here because you just said something that made me think about this. So we have, in the United States, we have 50 different insurance departments. And actually, I'm probably wrong because I would assume that U.S. territories would have it as well, Puerto Rico and stuff. Do you ever see a day where you could see that either consolidating, federalizing? Because right now we've got these 50 different little fiefdoms You think that would ever come together?
Yeah, I don't see federal regulation of insurance anywhere on the near-term horizon. I think, the insurance regulation in this business, in our industry, belongs with the states. They're closer to it. They understand it better. It's just a much better environment for regulation of the insurance business. Now, that said, I think the regulators on the state side have recognized the risk associated with lack of uniformity. And so you've seen over the past decade or even beyond a decade of better work in terms of bringing regulation together so you have one set of regulations that the majority of states are operating by. You see it in product filings, you see it in suitability, you see it in broader regulation of the business of insurance. And I think that's good for the industry, but ultimately the federal government taking control of this, I think, is not the right direction for the business and ultimately ends in something that we will all be paying for in some form or another, certainly with your tax dollars.
Absolutely. So recently we had, of course, anybody who's listening to this is an advisor, so they're very familiar with the Department of Labor and the fiduciary rule, and so we've had these iterations where it's come out, it's pulled back, come out, and now we're living in a spot where we have some different forms that we have to do. Do you ever see, from putting your lawyer hat on, without giving legal advice on this podcast,
Sure.
But isn't there a little jurisdictional toe-stepping going on here?
Oh, for sure. I mean, this is what McCarran-Ferguson was all about, which would have to be overturned for the federal government to take control of the entirety of this. That's why you see these things, at least in my opinion, arising in places like the Department of Labor, because it's not broad-based insurance. It focuses on qualified plans, qualified money. So, yeah, I think you'd have to have a major overhaul of the entire regulatory system and changes in the case law in order for that to happen.
Now, so you started, did you start in this right out of college?
Right out of law school, yeah.
Right out of law school?
Right out of law school, yeah.
And so you've seen, with a lot of changes that have gone on, what do you see that excites you for the industry?
Oh, and we have, here at Creative, we built a program around it where we are focusing on enterprise-wide clients. And so this whole conversation we've been having around, 30 years ago, this is what an insurance agent looks like, to now holistic financial advisors. That whole migration where you're providing a much broader service to a client than you are today, I think is really, really exciting about the direction that's headed. And it has created a whole new set of clients for our advisors who didn't in the past focus on managed money or their securities business. It was focused in a different place. Now, we have a lot of insurance-only licensed people, insurance agents we work with, and a lot of them are affiliated with people who have securities license, and they work together.
How do you think in our industry, you see this headline all the time about how our average age of advisors is continuing to go up and up and up, and there's not enough people coming in. How can we help facilitate more blood into the stream here?
It's a great question, and it's one that Creative One should be thinking about. All of our carrier partners should be thinking about. For me, it is all about education. It's all about coaching. Think about the number of advisors you've run across in the course of your career where you have somebody who has a nice business, but if they had a few more tools, if they had the know-how and education to understand when to add a person, when to hire the next business support person for your practice, how to add lines of business to your practice. That coaching and that education beyond how to have an interaction with the client, but how to build a better practice, really is something that's lacking broadly in our industry. I think there's, we've done some things to try to develop that. When I looked at 23, this is a big initiative for us, and it's building on the things that we've done before. but it's a continued focus on how do you continue to enhance those things. And frankly, what we're doing here today and what we will build on here, as you started, Dennis, is the creation of a platform where we can put advisors who've been incredibly successful in their business and talk about what's made them successful and get them to share how they took their business from X to Y to Z, and have others learn from that and build on that. So this is the forum where I think a lot of that can take place.
Moving away from home office theory,
correct,
to real world applicable ideas.
Yep, and you've heard me on in many meetings where we're planning events or PPS events or our Summit One event. And the conversation is, do we want our people on stage talking about how to build a practice, or do we want successful advisors on stage talking about how they've built their practice? And if you're an advisor in the audience, you want to hear from the person who's done it, who's been successful at it. We can add a ton of the experiences that we've had and what we've observed and what we've participated in helping, where we've participated in helping an advisor grow their business. But it's really that colleague, that advisor to advisor, that collegial relationship where you can learn and build on your practice. So study groups, forums like this, I think are really going to be a focus for us next year.
Do you think that's maybe one of the biggest challenges? You were saying it just a second ago, but do you think that's maybe one of the biggest challenges to advisors, is really looking at themselves as a business?
Yeah, I do, and you have to think about it as well. I mean, if you're an advisor in a practice with one or two people in your office, and you recognize that you have grown to a specific spot and you can't get bigger, you can't have more activity. You've hit your capacity. It's hard. I mean, you're asking an advisor to say, hey, let's go out and hire somebody else. Well, that's dollars out of their pocket.
Exactly.
And so helping them understand what the return is on that investment, if you hire the right person at the right time, those are the things that I think are, yes, they're challenging, they're a little bit scary sometimes. It's, like I said, it's dollars out of their pocket, but the returns can be significant if done right. And that's just one example. I mean, there are a whole host of pieces to building a practice beyond when to hire and who to hire that are important. And so all of those pieces have to be there. And this is when this is our job, is building a coaching platform, the Complete Advisor, that helps advisors go down the path to understand the right steps at the right time.
That's the analogy I always like to use is our advisors are, and forgive me because I don't know my golfers other than Tiger Woods, but I always say that Tiger Woods doesn't carry his own golf clubs, and it's our job to make sure that from an IMO perspective to help an advisor with all aspects, so that they can take their talent, which is sitting across from somebody and putting plans together, but anything we can do to get that out of the way, any challenges out of the way. Well, as you look at where we are in the industry now, and as you look forward, where do you see some of our biggest threats? Is it mostly regulatory?
Yeah, I think regulatory is the one that comes to the surface most quickly, and I think everybody right now, depending on which side of this business you're on, or if you're on both sides, the economic environment is one that creates massive opportunities, but it's also can consume a lot of time and create a lot of concerns for advisors and their clients. The growth of AUM in the industry has been dramatic over the last several years. Well, here we are in 2022 with a significant pullback, with the Dow down 20% and the S&P down similar amounts. We're in an environment right now where advisors are having to spend time talking about that as opposed to building the book of business.
Oh, that's a good point, yeah.
And so, making sure that you have all the tools to have those conversations, and most advisors have done a great job with their clients so that when these times do arise, they're prepared for the conversations, and they've already had a lot of that conversation with their clients before it happens. But it is a change in the use of an advisor's time when when you hit a economic environment like we're in today.
Absolutely. I have to say that you've done a great job of queuing up 2 future episodes that we have recorded. So we have one, Courageous Conversations with the Top Advisor, on having those conversations of not only the market has done this, but then also no one ever teaches you how to handle a death claim, things like that.
Right.
Which is interesting in the industry that nobody ever does teach you that one, because that does come up.
Yeah.
The other one that we are recording here is another one on building a winning team. We've got an advisor here in town my gosh, his team is just fantastic. But those little things that we can add to the business to make it easier to run a business.
Yeah, and you know what? It's not just about hiring. It's also about understanding the right time to take people off your team. If they aren't the right person, you have to have the ability and the courage to have the conversation, say, hey, this isn't working out, it's time to move that person along, and find the person with the right level of talent to come onto the team.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because that's a lot like, from an advisor perspective, you can find a million reasons to buy into a position, but then finally deciding when it's time to sell out,
Correct.
Which would be the same, which as somebody who's hired
Absolutely.
and helped, as someone who's hired, but then also helped probably a few people find something better. Yeah.
Right.
Wait, we're not talking after this, are we?
It's the nature of the business. It's the nature of any business.
That it is. We are going to take this journey and dive into different areas of what it means to be a complete advisor. Like I opened the show and said, the days of picking up the phone and calling out with that one interest rate, or calling out because you've got the hot stock, we all know those days are done. We need to bring more to the table. Our clients expect more, they need more, and you are the complete advisor to deliver that. So we look forward to having you on the next episode. We'll see you then.
Thanks, Dennis.
This podcast is for financial professional use only and not for use with the general public. The information provided is the exclusive property of Creative One and is protected by copyright and other intellectual property laws of the United States. This material has been prepared for informational and educational purposes only. It is not intended to provide, and should not be relied upon for, accounting, legal, tax or investment advice. Creative One is not responsible for the results of programs discussed on this podcast or any liability stemming from the use of it. Although we may promote or recommend the services offered by this company, agents are ultimately responsible for the use of any materials or services and agree to comply with the compliance requirements of their broker-dealer and registered investment advisor, if applicable, and the insurance carriers they represent. Copyright 2022, Creative One Marketing Corporation.